Okay. I want to start off to say thank you, God. Um, I know somebody who is going through what I'm going through shouldn't be saying that, but I am thankful because the reality is I just wouldn't want to trade places with these nasty bottom feeders. And I'm not just trying to say that to insult them. I think it's just the fatigue that also makes it hard for me to express myself without saying this. But I didn't sleep much. It's the type of night where they keep me up, which is funny enough. Like it fatigues my brain, but in regard manipulation, I wake up less manipulated. That's still brain fatigue. Means that I don't have the energy to deal with the manipulations. I just so I just want to say thank you, God, and maybe that's the way that now going forward I give praise because I'm thankful. I am appreciative because the reality has been just so overwhelming that even this manipulation, this brainwashing, this conditioning of the brain cannot beat reality, cannot pass reality. Um, and so this is why I should be thankful. Now, with that being said, I expect only the worst. Reality has humiliated these people. My brain is wired in ways that takes away reality and logic. But reality still hits. It doesn't change reality. Just because your brain is being manipulated in whatever ways, reality is still going to be reality. And so if you live a life where you create a distorted reality and you think this is going to take away from reality, you delude it. Because the embarrassment of reality is going to come to you. The shame of reality is going to come to you if you involve yourself in that. I've seen it in my own eyes. There was a time when these people involved in this were super visible with me. Now the ways I can just embarrass these people can be shocking. There's one thing as a target individual, one thing you're gonna hear is cars around you honking and doing this. And with me, the way they do it, the timing with the way they make me think. But now I'm like, oh, do a one honking for this. I understand what this is really about. I cannot get lost in this distorted reality. This is just a way to kind of disorient a target individual. The truth is, I'm a human subject. The government is running this program. And whatever is going to happen to me is happening to me because I'm a test subject. I'm a test subject where Department of Defense technologies are being applied onto me. The PSYOP, the way things are disoriented, is part of this program to try to confuse the test subject to think that it's anything else but a program where they're developing technology that is extremely advanced. And this technology has not only they have the ability to manipulate your body, my organs are being destroyed slowly. But it seems like this is bigger than that. It's about how to manipulate the mind in the most efficient way. And the efficiency of manipulations, and we are then manipulated to think and react in certain ways. But on top of that, they want you to start identifying with these manipulations, knowing them well that is obviously not something that you experience naturally. So their job now is to find ways for you, a test subject, to start identifying with the way you're manipulated. And you obviously know that governmental entities are really running this program because this technology, this sophistication, and the amount of effort and funding in this is not some just regular people doing this, like a group of whatever PSYOP. I will explain my PSYOP as I explained it before. This PSYOP doing this thing to you, it's happening to you because you are one of those test subjects the government is using to develop this technology, to develop this program. The rest is just a way to kind of disorient you. And you know that this is obviously DoD involvement, not even involvement. They're definitely running this program. This is definitely where the resources are coming from. It's definitely where the technology is coming from. But there's also a strong fingerprint of the CIA. It's obvious the CIA is also involved in it. Let's remember MK Ultra. They were the initiator of this mind control type of programs. And so one thing you would realize here is you hear this trash around you that always try to disorient you. As a target individual, we have what you call synthetic telepathy and V2K. And via those devices, V2K, you could hear the voices of these individuals interacting with you. This individual, their job is to disorient reality, distort reality, to make you believe that there's something else but this obvious massive government that is utilizing human subject to develop their technology. These people, they contract are almost childlike individuals. They're like children almost, or they're adults that turn into mentally childlike individuals. And their job is to just make you believe anything else but the reality of what's happening to you. With me, because I'm in isolation, in the sense that I'm isolated, they think that this state of mind, these ways of thinking that they can create is something I identified, and I don't see the bigger picture of what this is about. But they make the mistake every time they can have any interaction with me. To realize that, oh man, this guy is not going with this fantasy we've put together. And I let that be known immediately when I can. This helps me having these videos. Because if we do have any interaction, they will know how quick I will get to reality with them. That this reality they've created, that's the story, is not what I'm going with, regardless of what's going on in my brain. That I know that what I'm experiencing will never be experienced unless my brain was manipulated. That I know the tactics they use are not the tactics they use uniquely to me. And I know that who else is a test subject in this program, who else they have destroyed, who else they have done horrible things to, and how easily for them to do that to them because of how sophisticated the technology is. That the remotelessness of the ability of this technology, meaning that how remote you can do things to somebody without ever being seen, makes it so easy that a child can participate. And they contract these losers. I call them losers in the sense that look at what you have become. These tactics are very pedophilia-centric. The way they manipulate your brain is disgusting. Matter of fact, 2 seconds ago, I saw this YouTube picture, this video, where you see little kids, little girls specifically. You see these little babies from these adorable little girls. They even try to, so what they're doing is forcing me to get a reaction, a sensation, a stimulation that's kind of sexual, or some kind of sexual hint in it. Matter of fact, even the baby fits. And then they want you to accept these manipulations. And you hear people who contract by governmental entities to say the things that needs to be said in order for me to be confused and disoriented and to be acceptive of manipulation that I know are not natural. And my brain, what they've been doing is making me experience these stimulations and then making me think that I experienced the same thing when I was a kid. And say something, we've matched it. So it's a lot of nonsensicalness happening by very, very cowardly individual who want to act or who will act as if that's something that you should be subscriptive to. Then are surprised when you see them for the bottom feeders that they are, the pedos that they are, and the nasty things they're involved in, truly. And that this logic that they've put together, when interacted with me, that the target that I am, the test subject that I am, is far from being prescriptive. Matter of fact, that I have to calm down any aggression because I'm seeing them for what they truly are. Now, I'm so thankful that God has given the strength to keep my cool, because one thing is for sure, I do not want to get my hands dirty. Seeing how bottom feels these trash are, it will be just nothing. It will be a dirt on my hand that I will never want to have. These losers, this childlike shit, have been humiliated by reality. Right now, they even still give me sexual stimulations after seeing these babies. But when you are validated to that level, when you know that these tactics have been done to others, and then you hear the testimonials that I've brought up many times, which maybe today I'm not going to do it, or in this call, not in this call, in this video, that we've been too validated, that they do the pedophilia type of torture, that they force men and women to have stimulations and manipulate their arousals, and then try to make you accept to them. So they do this thing remotely, especially now more than ever. Especially now that while they talk to me, usually I have my headphones on, I can clearly listen to what they do. That I can clearly listen to somebody say something like this.
What is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation, so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including...
This is a target individual who says that she's getting these nasty manipulations, and these manipulations force her to have some kind of sexual arousals aimed toward children. So when I have this reaction toward these kids, these babies, truly babies, and they force me to get stimulations, I will never subscribe to it. And it's funny, there's a little boy here which they don't do the stimulation toward, and then there's a little girl here, and they aim the stimulation toward this little girl because not too long ago I was around a little boy that I basically saw growing up, and so it would not be something they can make me, not even make me, they will not be able to be like, oh, now we mapped into something, because what happened during the time when I was around that baby? What happened to that? Now you hear the noise campaign, right? This is what they're supposed to create. They're supposed to box in this fantasy. You heard specifically that this woman said they do the pedophilia type of torture. And the reason why they stimulate me toward that little baby girl is because they're like, no, but when you were a kid, that's how you will react to these little girls. And giving me stimulation right now. This is something they've been doing to other target individuals, and you can hear clearly that sexual arousals are manipulated onto a target individual.
Any part of the body. This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the...
So sexual arousals is something they like to play with to torment you. Their goal is to make yourself see yourself in a way that's falsified, in disturbing ways. And they play with your arousals, and they have no shame in the regard of aiming those arousals toward children. With me, they do that also to little boys, but not all the time. But little girls, it's going to be for sure most of the time. Then tell me that what they were doing to you is making you experience something you've experienced when you were a child. And then try to convince you and try to intimidate you into accepting this by telling you how the horrible things you're going to experience when you get tortured. Thinking torture, violence, is going to make me identify with these manipulations. They get to the point how they're going to tattoo my face, and I'm like, this is like a theater. You know, when somebody is trying to prove try to prove a point that's falsified, and they go the extra mile to create a false reality, because this is so falsified and it's been so validated that this thing is a thing they do to other people, that they are going to create a theater of some sort to try to counter the reality that this has been so validated in regard of how they manipulate people. You know, the things they like to do is how they're gonna frame me, right? And the frame is gonna be obviously pedophilia centric. And then they tell me I'm gonna rot in hell, in jail. I was like, I'd rather die in hell. Matter of fact, this is why I'm thankful to God that I'm not rotting in whatever paradise they're in. Because all throughout the night, they were just there waiting for me to look at a child and force me to get some kind of sexual stimulations or arousals and manipulations, and then try to make some noise campaign to try to make me accept these things. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I didn't have to live life the way they're living. I'm hearing a child who tell me I raped her, and this is how they're gonna frame me. I could have been a participant in coercing this child, into that. Thank you, God. But it doesn't end there. The fact that this manipulations is non-stop is disturbing, but I don't identify with that. Matter of fact, now more than ever, it's becoming more obvious to me who's truly a threat to children, an actual threat. But it would have been a sign already. Anybody who can be involved in a program where you are tasked to, every time this target individual, man or woman, looks at a child, see a child, hear a child, force them to get some kind of sexual arousal or reaction that's sexual. You cannot be a protector of children, or a person who would not be able to harm a child. You know, they try to really make you believe that you're crazy, like to delude it. They love to project reality onto you. You know, I've noticed that they've with me, initially they try to act a certain ways. When I start filming them, you see how they just like kind of go away from that acting, because they know what it looks like. Because with this kind of information, this is one that's just a small segment. It's just so clear that they have this pattern of manipulating people. These manipulations have been clearly mentioned by so many others. With me, if you've seen my other videos, what they like to do is they talk about me as a kid, right? I bring you a picture of somebody like in 8th grade. Right? I bring up pictures of kids around that age. And you see somewhere here, this is an 8th grader trying some new food. You obviously see that this is a child. When I was around that age, I did something stupid, impulsive thing of a child. Impulsive thing that I did as a child. That's, looking back, I'm like, oh, but I can see children capable of doing that because of the mind of a child, developing brain of a kid who's just turned 14 or about to turn 14, so 13, 14, 14, 13, who does something stupid and never, ever, ever think about it. So every time they try to make me believe this manipulation, that, but remember what you did as a kid. Now, I'm hearing people, first of all, saying that, and then they're like, no, we're so severe. We don't care, even if whatever you did was you were a child, and whatever exaggeration they try to implant to it, I'm like, no, even the non-exaggerated version, we're so severe that you're gonna pay for that. Now, I started doing this thing where I put names on my fridge, a list of mostly women. Oh, they're all gonna be women, but some of these women have mentioned children. And those list of women, it's a list of women who are target individual. I have a list of now about like 26 or so, but I'm gonna have 50 easily. Even more can be fine. And they're all American women because for me, I just want to make sure that they understand that I know what they truly are. The testimonials of these women consist of how they torture children. We're talking about sexual torture. They are so severe that they severely suffocate children. This technology can do so much to your body. It can restrict your lungs, but also harm you when you have like what's the word that woman says? Mariana. Mariana describes it perfectly. She felt like burned, but there was no actual burn. She felt like she was thrown in the fire, but she didn't feel like she was not in the fire. They made her feel that pain without actually experiencing this action of being on fire. They can make you have your sensories or your feelings of pain of all sorts, but you're not truly experiencing it. It's like they can access your brain and make you feel pain, but how they can control your mind, which is terrible. They can make you feel all kind of horrible pain, all kind of agonizing pain. And they've done that to not only women, a lot of women, though the women testimonials, it will not be hard for you to find them, but children too. They have done horrible things to children. Matter of fact, I think they would prefer to do that to women because women most likely are not going to be as aggressive when it comes to aggressive in the sense that they're not going to cause mass shootings. They're not going to try to kill somebody. They're not going to do that. So they're perhaps the best targets because they're going to stick around for a long time to try to survive. On top of that, they love that. They want to prolong this because they need that test subject, and it's a lifetime. And so you hear testimonies of women who've been tortured for years and decades, still trying to survive. As men, it sounds like men don't have that sense of survival as much as women target individual. Matter of fact, the last mass shooting that happened in this country, the largest one, in October, was a target individual who lost his mind because they were calling him a pedophile via V2K. He lost his mind, killed 18 people, top 10 US history in regard of death in the mass shooting. Now, I have my moments of feeling aggressive, but I prayed and asked God, please don't give me strength to not lose my mind this way. I'll feel so small. Because, like I said, the people around you are not agent or anything. They're just regular civilians that are contracted. It seems like they need so much human labor in a sense of like continuously somebody there to continuously agitate the target individual. They need that continuously around you. Make noise campaign, do things to just disturb the target individual in order to get those results. To say what needs to be said a million times. Those disorienting scripts are meant to confuse you, to make you accept these manipulations. To bring your brain back into thinking the way they want you to think. For example, for me, when they do this pedophilia type of torture, you saw these little babies. It's like, no, we mapped it to you when you were a kid. Now you are forcing me to get this nasty stimulation that I will not experience naturally. And then with my brain, what they do is they make me have this sensation that they make me feel that I experienced when I was a kid, when I did not. And change it because they can tweak around and make you feel a version of something that you feel like you felt, but adding a sexual input in it. It's so nasty. They rewire your brain in these nasty ways. So when you feel the sensation, it feels like you've had it feels familiar, but it feels familiar in a sense like a long time ago when you were a kid. But changed it with an extra little something that makes it sexual. That's what they do. and they tweak around what needs to be tweaked around to get you to feel more familiar with this thing. And then they have these bottom feeders who lives around you. She's like, no, I mapped it. It's like, no, you did not map it. You are manipulating me, and you want me to accept this false reaction. And even the logically way they try to present that to you, meaning that we are making you experience something that you've experienced, but as a child, even this logic, which is in so nonsensical, but they have to act accordingly. They minimize the volume of intellect when they gaslight you because they have to be on the spectrum. So you get on that spectrum. So even this logical way for them, they want you to think of things as in, well, you have experienced that, but it was in your childhood. So what we're doing is we're making you experience, you in your mid to late 30s, experience something that you have experienced when you were in your preteen or early teens. We mapped it to that. So today is in your 30s, your mid 30s, and your late 30s. This is how we're making your brain experience things. The brain of yours right now is being wired back to you when you were a child. And truly want you to identify with this. And it's serious. Then you hear the embarrassment of reality that no one need to do this pedophilia type of torture. You heard this. Literally a woman who's a target individual who literally calls it out for what it is. They do the pedophilia type of torture. Matter of fact, I would not be able to call it this so well. That they have this pattern that is pedophilia centric. It doesn't even end to this one woman. Matter of fact, this is a survey that was done in 2015 of target individuals who were asked 1,000 of them, by the way. So a nice sample that can give you a good trend, a good pattern of what things are done. And this is one of the things a lot of them said.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds, and vice versa.
So, almost all target individuals that were surveyed, which were 1,000, that's a nice sample. If you ask 1,000 people a question and a lot of them are saying the same thing, those questions were not like, hey, but what do you, no. They ask multiple questions, what you experienced, what's happening. Almost all of them say something about child pornography being implanted in their mind to be viewed in their mind. This, meaning they do this pedophilia type of torture. So there's obviously a hint of, not even hint, is a pattern that pedophilia is utilized on target individual. Meaning that they do this kind of torture that consists of pedophilia. And it's clear. And others have made it more clear, saying, there's people around me. For example, listen, let me describe what's happening to me around me. There's people who are, which we call perps. Those are definitely, I'll call them the bottom feeders of this program. They are there 24/7, or at least somebody's there 24/7. Some of them sound like they're actually neighbors or people who just moved around you to participate in your degrading. And you can hear them, they like to open the door, slam the door, do things to make it sound like, to make sure that you know they're around. And they usually do that when, let's for example, you have a thought of some sort that is manipulated onto you, that is disturbing. They will do this thing where they make noise campaign, slam the door, do these banging things. Or when you're focusing on something else but the nasty things they do to me, you hear them doing some kind of loud noise or something, or you hear them say some repetitive things. those people sound like they're around you. They sound like your neighbors. Now I don't know if they're always your neighbors, like direct neighbors, but it sounds like they're just around your environment. And then they do these things where they make you think in these disgusting pedophilia ways. Then try to make you feel guilty, or try to logic create this rationality that I just mentioned, that is nonsensical, but they want to sell it as if it makes sense. That your brain is just being manipulated or mapped to be the brain that you have when you were a kid. You experienced this thing when you were a child. And we map it to your childhood. That we're making your brain experience something you experienced, but when you were a kid yourself. And so today, yes, you're being manipulated, but you're being manipulated to experience something that you've experienced when you were a child. This is when they try to be logical. You understand how illogical it is, how nonsensical it is, but the truth is, that's not even true. They're making you feel like a reaction that is falsified, but that feels like something you've experienced when you were a kid, but tweaking it around to add something sexual and stimulating. Or trying to play around with reaction that you experienced when you were a really young kid. When, for example, it gets as bad as when you're like a kid humping on like cushions. Like we're talking about third grade, second grade. And say, this is the feeling you felt, and then apply that to what I'm experiencing today, but aim it toward children. And say, we see you mapped it, you felt like that. So this kind of disturbing things. On top of thoughts that are so disturbing, those are the sensations that I'm describing. But thoughts themselves being so disgusting, where you think about kids in these disgusting ways. As in, you imagine disgusting thoughts that are forced onto you and you know it's them. This is what I'm describing right now. Now listen to this description of what this person in 2011 said about what's happening to her.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pet. Like this disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
So let me just summarize what this person said. She says she knows there's people who's trying to, obviously, let me hear that clearly.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am.
It's somebody is trying to, like she was saying how, like she doesn't take this thing too serious in the sense that she's not going to be crying all the time because what's happening to her. But it is dramatic. If somebody's trying to take her life, change who she is, take over her mind, and then she says this, putting thoughts of pedophilia. She didn't finish the word pedophilia. She's like, oh, she stops herself, and she's like, you see that first word? Yes. And she said, I have to acknowledge that there's people in my surrounding doing these things with, I don't know if it's weapon, whatever it is, however they're doing it, I just don't want it. This is in 2011. What I just said before saying that is, I am being, there's people around me, right, that try to make me accept this manipulation of not only my thoughts, but even sensation and stimulations, and try to convince me that what I'm experiencing is something they've mapped it. I should identify to this, and this pedophilia type of torture is something that I should subscribe to because when I was a child, That's how I experience things. You hear this woman, this transgender woman, in 2011, saying that there's people around me that are trying to take my life, of course, but change who I am, implanting thoughts of pedophilia. And she said those people are surrounding her, or she's somewhere around, or at least that's what she thinks. You understand the correlations here? You just heard the first video right before that saying that almost all target individuals are forced to see child porn in their mind. You hear this woman, this transgender woman, saying that there are people surrounding her, changing her thoughts into these pedophilia ways of thinking, or some pedophilia thoughts are implanted in her mind. Before that, you hear this woman say they made her smell baby powder because they have the ability to manipulate your sense of smell. And then once they do that, they do the pedophilia type of torture, which based on how she describes it, or what she calls it, pedophilia type of torture, is something sexual with children. There's another testimonial where a woman says that she was petting her dog. When she was petting her dog, they gave her some kind of weird sensation that's kind of sexual. That sexual stimulation, that sexual sensation, started from her petting the dogs to then they moved that to aiming those sensations towards young people and children, and also homosexuals. Children is the key word there. Because the things with homosexual, they've done the same with me. That's not going to be like torturous, really. It's not going, it's not really that torturous, like it's whatever. But the children portion is what's going to be torturous. Now you hear the clear validation that they do the pedophilia type of torture. And they torture children. And they harm women. And they manipulate the thoughts in ways that are disgusting. Matter of fact, you can even hear that they manipulate memories, implanting informations or sensations into your memories, changing your memories and presenting as if they're your memories. But then another level of validation comes up. That is like basically the end, the flag lining. That just destroys everything even more. The destruction of the validation, the ultimate validation, is the reality of who is really the pedophiles here. As I was saying that, to counter what I'm going to say, they will tell me, you use her hand, you do this and that. They do things, they say things in order to counter reality and to dissuade me from saying what I'm going to say, to change and diverge my mind. Because then the level of validation you get becomes to another layer when you find out this. Like I said, this is obviously the Department of Defense running this program. The psyop that I'm presented by is like, we are this femme fatale, fierce women that are, it's our money and we're avenging these women and children and what. And first of all, it's obvious it's the government running this program. And as deluded and childlike you want me to be, I'm not going to let you escape. Because I've been validated by so many others. They also call out the obvious. It's like, obviously, these people next to you, well, how can they be able to create technology that sophisticated? How can they have the ability to have that kind of resources to wherever I go in the world, this will happen to me? How can they have random people in the traffic just honking and timing with? It's orchestrated in a way that is governmental, and the technology that they utilize on you, the neurotechnology, the DEW, all this technology can even be seen on the website of the Department of Defense. They mention all of that. And you want me to think that these childlike minded people who sound like children basically, who sound in ways that are agitating, to try to agitate you, are the one in charge? They're clowns. Some of them don't even have this stuff together. Some of them are on meds. Some of them are like unstable people. And then I've been even validated by other things that's specific to me. The entity, the organization that put me in this program is extremely conservative. That's why perhaps they have this tie-up. The organization that put me in this program is an organization that sells industrial supplies and very, very influenceable in this country. They have donated a lot of money to the most conservative entities in the government. They have very, very strong connection with all kind of entities in the government, from intelligence community to any other entity within the government. Very, very, very powerful, influenceable people. And so the conservativeness and how much they have influenced the country has pushed this country in backwards. And so it seems like the reason why they have this psyop is to counter the reality of who put me in this program. And these people that I worked for donated money to an individual who was very troubled, who did some trouble stuff, like did some foul things when he was 35 years old or so, or when he was in his 30s as an assistant DA, to the point that he was banned from the YMCA from picking up kids as young as 14 years old. For some reason, they are restricted to say his name in a clear way. When they say Roy Moore, they say it in ways that I don't even know if they say it, or they say a version of his name that is not truly Roy Moore. So they say something like Ratmore or whatever. And just the fact that they have to be so timid, they have to be so shy when they talk about him, it's just an indication that, okay, you see how things goes. We know who's running the show here. You better not say his name because you know that your position. So that validates me on top of that. And on top of that, there's also things like that, like what you're going to hear.
Ate the brains on the.
So this is Robin Dawkins. He's been the one interviewing and talking to a lot of target individuals. He's the one who came up with this list of different things target individuals are forced to experience. Everything on that list it seems like almost all of it. The repetitions, the manipulation of this libido, all of that, a lot of it actually. I've gotten some of it. The fact that they implant child porn in your mind, this is the things they do. And I've experienced the same thing. The pedophilia type of torture is something that I'm experiencing every day. So when I see that little baby, the way they make me react, it's like, now we mapped it down to you when you're a child. It's the way they manipulate me to experience things. It's the pedophilia type of torture that no one, I'm saying that, but this woman who says that they make her smell baby powder and they give her this like reaction. The validations are crazy. He says this thing when he interviews a bunch of target individuals.
The boot camp. They'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all these stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this.
So it's clear that he's saying that they're trying to disorient you. They're trying to make you believe anything else but the reality of what you're part of. They try to paint this fantasy of a false reality that they want to believe is true, distort reality, to get you to think that it's anything but these entities that are governmental led. The DoD is definitely running this program. This kind of resources, this kind of financial aspect, this kind of technology cannot be found anywhere else but the DoD. And you see who's talking to you like, oh my goodness, you can't even say the name Roy Moore. You think I think that you're delusional. Now, if you're the one involving yourself in that and you're getting paid for that, yes, that's your money in that sense. You're getting paid from the DoD. So it's your money in the sense that you are getting paid to do this. But the government is running this program, and it's obvious. But this governmental entity that's running this program have very troubled trends, have a real pattern. As these retards want me to subscribe to this nasty manipulation, this pedophilia type of torture they do, where they said, "Now we mapped it to you when you were a kid. We made you, you felt like that." Listen to the reality of the entities running this program.
About 8 billion brains on the planet, potentially. Read the brains.
Has come under investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flicker, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us.
You hear this is 2019. A bill is meant to limit the access of child porn of using the Department of Defense network and devices. And the reason why they needed to do that, or they're trying to do something about this, is because what you're going to hear.
Discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security suites. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer
sharing of child porn. Let me finish this part for you.
Has come under investigation for links.
Child pornography. That is horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible.
This is incredible. And if anything, it's disturbing. Because this is done on the Department of Defense devices and network. It's not something that is outside of work that they're doing. This is based on the study looking at just the Department of Defense network. And this bill is trying to minimize this level of child porn being shared using Department of Defense devices, using even government devices and government network. Now, this disturbing trend, this pattern, is so disgusting. While I'm listening to these bottom feeders working for these entities, running this program where they're using test subjects that are human and do the pedophilia type of torture, want me to be like, hey, listen to this logic. We are making you think the way you thought when you were a child. We mapped it to you when you were a child. You see, there's something, you felt like that when you were a kid. That is what they're doing to me as they manipulate me and say, no, this manipulation is basically, we're making you think the way you thought when you were a child. While in the real world, the entities empowering this trash have so much issue with pedophilia that the bill is supposed to, and the name of the bill, which is what you're gonna, is the best part, it's 1/16 S 1413. Let me repeat that. S 1413. That's the name of the bill. And they're telling me that with my brain, they have mapped my brain when I'm around 14, 13, and even younger than that. While this bill S 1413 is trying to limit the amount of child porn these employees of the DoD are circulating within the DoD network. Listen to these things. This is coming from the intelligence community and obviously the DoD.
They're following.
So, 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply
This synthetic telepathy. They're following the handbook perfectly.
2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls, filmed.
They try to manipulate my mouth. They do this thing, but the first thing you heard, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, that's a CIA agent that has sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignment.
1,400.
Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening in the general evil?
Ali, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired, can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your own footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number 1, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number 2, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting
behind those computers, behind Pentagon walls and Langley walls? Now, you clearly see there's a pattern. There's an issue. This is not just a conspiracy theory. There's literally a bill that is meant to limit the amount of child porn accessed using the Department of Defense network and devices because of the ranking. The ranking that was this ranking came from this internet, a child porn internet watchdog, child protective service that is ranking the networks with the most child porn, ranking out of 3,000. The real number is more like 2,891. The DoD ranked 19th out of 2,891. Let's just run it to 2,900. Out of 2,900. The DoD ranked 19th. 1-9. You see the clear pattern of what's going on there. It's safe to say, we can comfortably say that is a problem that is very pedophilia centric in these entities. The ranking on its own shows that. The bill on its own shows that. These comments from directors of the DSS, by the way, the DSS is like basically the HR/cybersecurity people in the DoD. They make sure that informations are not compromised, and make sure that things, like information doesn't is stolen. Right? They want to make sure that we're talking about very top secret stuff there, so they want to make sure the most secure system are available. The director of the DSS, which have to examine the computers of the employees, he was shocked by the amount of child porn he was seeing on the employee's computer. And now you understand why he's shocked. Even the department, child protective agencies was calling this network as the top tier in regard of child porn sharing. Now, I'm saying that because this level of validation shows that perhaps there's a trend that we should look into, a pattern here. But not even that. These are the same people in my brain saying this thing that the way I'm responding now, the way I'm reacting, is because they have made my brain think the way I used to think when I was a child. And you have already heard that women, not even women, but majority of target individuals are forced to experience this pedophilia type of torture. And you hear that this tactic of distorting and breaking people down is utilized. They do the pedophilia type of torture. But to find out that the entities running this program are so pedophilia centric that a bill is trying to limit the amount of child porn that is shared within the network of the Department of Defense using Department of Defense devices, is trying to stop this because there's so much of a problem. Not the private computers of these employees, not whatever they're doing at home, what they're doing on the computers of the government. So you hear what they do. You hear the clear pattern there that perhaps pedophilia is not only a tool that they use to break target individuals down, but that the entities running this program have a big problem with pedophilia. So you get this level of validations. Now, while I was saying that, and you heard me how complicated it was for me to speak, they were saying how I'm going to be a girl, because when they frame me, they're going to rape me, and this and that. I'm like, whatever's going to happen. I'm just thankful that before that happened to me, I had validations that are surreal, scary. I can name a bill called S-1413. The name of the bill is End National Defense Abuse Act, which is supposed to limit the amount of child porn using Department of Defense devices that is shared within that network. A whole bill that was passed in 2019 to limit, to attempt, like as one of these, attempt to limit this. This bill will attempt, but the truth is probably not going to do much, because they already have all the resources needed to stop this. The reason why it's not done is because it's not prioritized. They don't care much about that. It just doesn't look good to be ranked this high for child porn. It's just not a good look. They don't even try to look into people's computer, in their private computers, because they actually would be right to do that. They're working for the Department of Defense. There's so much secretive things that these people work with. So if they wanted to make this more efficient. They will look into people's life outside of the office. But they're not even doing that. They just want to stop people from using the Department of Defense devices and network. That's how pathetic it is. That's how much pedophilia-centric this is. So you heard all these validations, and they want me to be like, no, what we do, right, is we're making you think the way you thought when you were a kid. You see that feeling, that sensation? Yeah, it's you. We mapped it to you when you were a kid. Now you are doing the pedophilia type of torture. And on top of that, the entities running this program are so pedophilia-centric. The S1413, the End National Defense Abuse Act, was meant to stop the pedophilia issues. Well, it's meant to attempt to limit this pedophilia circulation of child porn. That's how pedophilia-centric you guys are. And then you get validation that people are saying that there's people around you, surrounding you, who are trying to change who you are, make you think in these pedophilia ways. There's this man who surveyed thousands of target individuals. Most of them are saying they're implanting child porn in their mind, forcing them to view child porn in their mind. Others are saying they manipulate my libido and gave me to have sexual stimulation and aim those sexual stimulation toward children. And you want me to be like, no, what you guys do? You are making me think the way I thought when I was a child. When I was 14 or 13, and actually younger than that. Me in my 30 plus years. Now, this level of validation comes in, it's just magical basically. Then they're like, no, but remember what you did as a kid when you were 13, 14 years old. That impulsiveness of this impulsive moment of a child that is about this age. This is an 8th grader. They're saying that they're making me think the way I thought when I was the age of this kid. And a kid at that age is a child. Is a kid who's still developing and mentally not fully there. He's in the midst of developing as his brain. So you can imagine somebody like that do something impulsive as a child, especially the fact that it only happened once. And unfortunately for them, now they have to create false pattern by creating memories of me when I'm even younger and try to create, no, but remember when you're 12, you felt like that moment. Remember, and they manipulate my memories of me as a child to give me stimulation sensation. Oh no, but when you're 13, you felt like that. Going backward and manipulate my memories in my childhood even younger. They go as young as 3rd grade. And say, you see, that's we mapped it. While this is what's happening. But they talk about what I did when I was the age of this kid. This impulsive moment, which they have to exaggerate. Now, looking back as an adult, I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? But they try to exaggerate. And they even try to make it seem like, oh, you damaged this person, you did this and that. This person has no idea who I am. But just to make a point for them, just to make a point to them, these people do not care about anything. They're just using this false reality. You heard Noise Campaign. They want to create this fantasy. So I go check in on this person that I haven't talked in years. She doesn't know who I am. I send her a message. I know she doesn't care about me. I know she doesn't even know me. I'm not really checking in to see how she's doing because I know she doesn't know me. I know she doesn't have no idea who I am. I'm nothing to her. She has no recollection of me at all. Which I understand. I didn't have any recollection of what I did when I was a kid. And I was a kid the age of that kid. So for sure, she doesn't even know me as a person at all. So I email her knowing that, of course, she doesn't know me. I know the truth. I know I have no impact on her. I did not do anything that damaged her. But they want to create this fantasy because the reality is they project reality onto you. Because these people damage children, abuse children, do horrible things to children in ways that you cannot comprehend. Not a child that's in middle school that's just like a little jerk off kid. They are here sexually torturing them, suffocating them, damaging them physically and psychologically. While me, they're trying to exaggerate what a middle school jerk off kid did. Where they even exaggerate to, oh no, you use her hand, you did this. Like, he's trying to push that to that level, to exaggerate what a child that age did. While this is what they do to children.
I am currently a speech language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This arm, she has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture.
Sexually torturing a 7-year-old with autism. This is what this program does.
One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity.
Suffocating a 7-year-old with autism in this program.
Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister, who also has Down syndrome.
A 4-year-old with Down syndrome and a 5-year-old with Down syndrome. They like to say a 4-year-old because they try to talk about what I did to myself as a kid. Well, listen to what they do to a 4-year-old with Down syndrome, a 5-year-old with Down syndrome.
I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "Ow." I observed this at least on...
It's funny how they try to make me swallow my own saliva, like you know when you're nervous, like they can make you even react in certain ways to make themselves believe in this fantasy. Sexually torturing a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, both with Down syndrome. Let me repeat that. Sexually torturing 4-year-old and 5-year-old with Down syndrome. In this program, this is what's happening.
Locations for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom.
A 3-year-old boy sexually tortured. In my head, they were going through the pedophilia things they do to me. It's like, oh, but it's a boy, look, because little girls, they give me this stimulation. These people are making me have this stimulation when it comes to little girls. And it's like, no, this is what we mapped it to you when you're a kid. You hear what they do to 3-year-old. Now, as I'm listening to that, because there's a clear evidence that they torture children, that these people are not here to protect children. Listen to what they do in this program. They tell me how I'm going to be knocked out. He's going to do this, we're severe, and try to agitate me and disorient what I'm listening to. There's a lot of that happening via V2K. They want you to stay within this fantasy of bubble they've created. They want you to stay within this reality they've put together. So this trash talking to me about how I'm going to be tortured is a way to disorient me from hearing what they do to children. because it's clear what they do to children. It's clear how severe they are, that they're capable of torturing kids as young as 3 years old, even younger. That the damage that these kids are going to get is severe, psychologically and physically. Listen to this woman talking about her and her young child during this bioethic in 2011.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here.
You hear that? Her and her young child being tortured, being used as test subject. She has 4 pages of what they do to her and her young child. Do you understand? They want me to somehow forget this, try to exaggerate what I did when I was a kid, around this kid's age, who's in 8th grade. If you see the picture even closer, you see how young this kid is. But to understand this is a middle school, and forget what you just heard about how these kids are being tortured, damaged, psychologically and physically, while pretending like that, oh no, what you did was damage. And having me go send a message to somebody that I know doesn't remember me, because the impulsive thing I did to myself as a kid is not to the extreme that would damage somebody mentally or physically. While they're in a program where they damage children to the point of physical damage, psychological damage, suffocating 7-year-old. This young child of hers, this woman says that she has 4 pages specifically about what they go through. You understand what they do? And today, when I'm forced to get this nasty reaction, because when I'm seeing babies, especially little girls, as I'm speaking, they're creating these things, because I think I was pulling my pants up. They do these pedophilia things to this level. On camera right now, they try to create these weird thoughts. As I'm focusing on what I'm talking about. But today, they force me to get these nasty stimulations toward children. And want me to think in this illogical way, while not only I know they torture children, I know they do the pedophilia type of torture, and I know that the entities running this program have this problem.
Has come under investigation for she said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the office...
Well, this is the issue. You know, in my mind, they tell me how they're gonna implant child porn and do this and how they're gonna frame me in different pedophilia ways. And then they're like, no, it's fate. It's happening to you because what you did as a kid. You know, it's fate that this all this comes out. Well, you want me to believe this fantasy. It's, I'm just, who am I to be special enough to not being tortured the way this woman or Catherine Nestor getting tortured? Her and her young child. Is it not fate then for them? This is it's just bad luck. When this Mariana woman is talking about how she's seeing her children being tortured, or the children she's teaching torture, it's not fate, or it's just bad luck? No. Unfortunately, I'm like one of them. It's fate that this issue at the DoD was something that was revealed during the time when I'm a target individual that validates me even more. It's fate that these women testified and said what's going on with them and their children. It's fate that I'm able to access all this information and see this low life that wanted to present themselves as this protector of children, while Child Protective Services have ranked the DoD as top 19th out of 2,900 in regard of child abuse videos shared. It's fate that this BuzzFeed article exposed the issue from the intelligence community. You heard the 3-year-old and the 2-year-old and 6-year-old sexually abused by a CIA agent. It's fate that I heard the testimony of how they abused these children, not only sexually, but other ways. Suffocating them and everything you heard. So for me, it's just like, man, thank you, God. Thank you, God. I appreciate you. And now I'm expecting a theater of torture that is supposed to counter this reality. Whatever is going to happen to me at this point is to stop from thinking about what these people are truly part of. It's going to be a theater to block out this reality that is just overwhelming. So when I go through my horrible torture, first of all, I have to remember who put me in this program. These bottom feeders were just the trash that can't even do that to women and children. They are just the implementers. The people who put me in this program are responsible for my torture. They put me in the program where they torture women like Mariana, like Catherine Nestor. So you know they will do something terrible. That's it. It's a given. It's formality, like I said. Listen to the horrible torture. If you heard the testimony of this woman, how she get tortured, you understand that you put in this program, horrible things are going to happen to you. So if they do horrible things to me, please understand, I just heard the testimony of a 7-year-old autistic child being suffocated. What do you think is going to happen to me? But these people who do these things. So I'll give the credit to the people responsible for my torture from this company that is so conservative that they donate money to somebody who allegedly was picking up kids as young as 14 years old at the YMCA when he was a 35-year-old man, an assistant DA, which they can't even say his name. They're the people responsible for my death. However I'm going to end up dying. Whatever is going to happen to them, to me, is because of them. Whatever theater they're going to try to create, that's basically creating a theater onto somebody who's already a done deal. So for these people who wanted to create this psyop, wanted to delude themselves, no, this is not well. We decided to do this. Like you decided on somebody who's already dead. It's like me killing a deer. And then have some kid of mine like here, pretend like you killed it. Oh wow, oh it's like how you want, where you want to shoot him? Oh, the deer's already dead. No, go ahead. Yeah. It's that mentality, and they're like, now we're gonna watch too. It's like yeah, cowards can't even say Roy Moore. But you think being brave is watching me being tortured? Please watch. To all my target individuals, I've been manipulated so much. Anybody who looks like a kid, I mean, all last night I was awake. Those kids that look like kids, I don't know if they were actual kids. They want some that were like young adults. That, you know, because being a young adult, they can pass for kids. It's just non-stop. But they do that to babies as young as this. Little babies. This. Look. So when they can do that to little babies like that, what can you imagine they do to like a young adults or people who look close to young adulthood? It's nasty. So to all my target individual, stay strong. Do not identify. Know that you're being manipulated. I'm not perfect. I know my imperfection. I know who I am. I know what makes me feel a certain way. And I know that I'm being manipulated to get this reaction and sensation toward these babies. Because they want to make me believe that I'm somebody I'm not. Which I know I'm not going to identify with. So whatever's going to happen to me, however I'm going to be framed by people who, in a program that torture children, where entities are so pedophilia-centric, they are here sharing child porn in a large amount to the point where they are being ranked as 19th out of 2,900 for the amount of child porn shared. While they're in a program that is renowned at this point with the systematic tactics of manipulating the brain in a pedophilia way, or in playing child porn in people's imaginations to make them imagine these disgusting things. Manipulating the libido and manipulating your arousals and aim those toward children and do the pedophilia type of torture. So for me, God, I just thank you. I thank God for making me able to see this before whatever happens to me. To be able to see the level of validation I have. The levels are just surreal. So I gotta be strong and understand that's what they do. To all my target individual, please, one thing is for sure, do not identify with how they want you to see yourself. They are trying to make you identify with a false persona. Whatever, they have no sense of self-respect. Like this woman said when she passed this bill, it is shameful, it is disgraceful to know that the Department of Defense devices and network is being used to share, create, and access child porn. It is disgraceful and shameful for these bottom feeders to implant child porn in people's brain, to force people to get this nasty stimulation toward children and try to make them accept these manipulations. They live a life of shameness. And as much as they're going to block that out, you know, it's funny, one thing I saw one, perps want to be seen in different ways. And for me, on dating apps, I can see when somebody is trying to make me see something. And one thing they were saying is like, we're the enemy of shame. You truly are. Because you're trying to block out this shameful, disgraceful program that you're part of, coming from entities where there's other disgraceful and shameful things happening. Which is why this S1413 and National Defense Abuse Act is meant to do, to kind of slow down on this shamefulness, to attempt to do that. So to all my target individual, stay strong.